Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, and I'm beginning another new build. This time, as you can see, we are going to be building another mid-power rocket. This is the Estes Optima Pro. This is a re-release of an older rocket from, I don't know, the earlier days of Estes making fairly large kits. So we'll just have to see how this goes. You can't see the whole thing, of course, because it's awfully large, but there we go. Oh, look at that. It's got foil decals, purple and silver, so should be pretty fun. I think I'm actually going to paint it using this scheme. There we go. So black on the bottom and white on the top, and we'll see how that goes. Anyway, so let's get started. The first thing that we need to do here, I'm going to go a little bit out of order. I have done a teeny tiny bit of work, and that is we have through the body construction, and I did need to extend the lines for where the cuts are, because there's, as you saw, there's a second set of fins that go up here. The other thing too is I put on a line approximately in the middle. That's going to be for the launch system. Now, I actually have drawn two on. There are 1/4-inch launch lugs that go with this, that come with the kit. I'm not sure if I'm going to put them on at all, or if I'm going to use some rail buttons here. This is, well, it's a smaller body diameter than a lot of mid-powers. Like I can get 3 of my fingers in here rather than my whole hand, so I know I can't put rail buttons too far into this. We'll see what I end up doing, but I did put lines on, so I might potentially end up putting both on this, just for good measure. All right. Anyway, so what I'm actually going to start with is I'm going to deal with the wood. So here's the wood. This kit is going to be using plywood rather than some of the other types of wood that we've used. Typically, model rockets use a lot of balsa, but this is a build that's going to be balsa and going to cut it. I've also used plastic fins on larger kits, and I've also used kits where the balsa, we end up making a reinforced, kind of like a plywood, out of multiple layers of balsa, but this time we're cutting out the middleman and we're just using plywood. So we'll get to the fins here shortly, but before I do that, we got some centering rings, we'll need them. So the way that this kit's going to go together is there are 3 body tubes. These 2 are going to go together and form the bottom section of the rocket, and it's going to break, the segment where it attaches is going to be two tubes together at the bottom, and then the nose cone, and then a top segment. So there's going to have to be this bulkhead that's going to go in between them. Now, I'm not entirely sure why, but the way that this is designed is, this is going to be, this section in here is going to be payload. And what you do with the payload, I suppose, is up to you. In fact, you don't even really need to make this a payload section. You could certainly just glue these together and say, good enough, moving on. But I'm going to follow the instructions. I'm going to have a payload bay for whatever reason, I guess the benefit to that is I don't have to cut any plastic out of this, because the nose cone is as intact as it ever really needs to be. All right, so in order to build the payload bay, we need a couple couplings. The couplings are going to hold the 2 lower parts together, so that's what one of them's for. I guess I might as well, I'm going to mark both of them off since I have it. They are 4 inches, so I'm going to mark off halfway on one of them, at least one of them, for this is the lower half coupler. And then the upper half, again, I'm going to mark off halfway through it. There we go. And that's good for now. Now, the coupler part is going to end up fitting inside here like this, and this is the anchor point. This is going to be where the shock cord attaches. So I need to fit these 2 parts together into, well, I need to glue these together, and then they're going to go inside this. There's also an eyelet, but I'm not going to worry about the eyelet for the time being because this stuff needs to dry before we start messing with that. While I am eventually going to use some epoxy to put the fins, that part, together, this part, it does not require epoxy. This is kind of a low stress part of the build. So I'm just going to spread out some of this glue. There we go. Should be more than enough. And then I'm going to do my best to center it around the circle. So I'm just going to look down on it and make sure that I can see straight through. And of course, as soon as I pushed this down, some of the glue went right into the eyelet, so I can't see anything. To deal with that, I have a paper clip here I use for cleaning stuff out. Well, today what it's cleaning out is the eyelet. And it looks pretty good. I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to just ever so gently mop up any of the glue that's squished around the sides, hopefully without adjusting that hole. Alright, so this little circle here, all that is, that's just reinforcement for when we put the eye hook in there, but we don't need to do that at the time being. This is going to go inside of the coupler like so. Now I think I'm gonna end up just kind of rotating this to get it to fit, because just pushing it down on the top didn't really work all that well the first time. So that's going to be my approach. I'm just going to put a thin bit of glue here. I am going to spread it out with my glue spread and stick here, I think, but just a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to try to keep it right at the edge as best as I can, since that the bulkhead here is not very thick. Alright, so in it goes, and I'm just going to rotate it up, and then I'm just going to push it down with the same wood stick. This is the not gluey side. I'm going to push it down the whole way to make sure that it is flush against the ground and everything is set up nicely. Probably pushed a little glue out. Yeah, a little bit of glue. Clean that up. And off my mat. And that is great. In fact, you know what, now that I think about it, I'm not particularly concerned about putting this in, honestly. The only reason I could think to not put it right into this right away is, well, I don't want to put the hook in right away. You know what, let's put it in. It doesn't hurt. Just making sure this is M. This is the shorter of the 3 body tubes. It's clearly not the one with the through the wall construction, but just making sure I got the right one here. So I'm going to put some glue on the inside of this. This will be more glue because, well, there's more tube, and I'm going to spread this out more generously across a larger area. It's going to end up getting pushed around when I put the tube in there, but still spread it out. Alright, so this is going to go in, and it's going to go in until it gets to that halfway mark, like so, and then it's going to stop. And again, this needs to dry for a while, so I'm going to actually put this on its side somewhere else, because there is still a little bit of glue here, and I really don't need this to get glued to the ground. Alright, so that takes care of some of the wood. The other wood is the fins. And the fins, the instructions call for rounding them, which is, you know, that's pretty mild. At least I don't have to airfoil them. But they do need to be sanded, and they're going to get sanded. The instructions say to sand 2 out of 4 of the sides. Now, obviously, we're not going to sand the root. That's this side. Actually, it goes like this. So we're definitely not going to sand the root. They want the leading edges, but not the back edge to be sanded. You could certainly sand all 3 edges. That would not hurt. In fact, I might end up doing that. We'll do the little fins second, but the big fins, so make sure you're pointing it the right way. If you're only going to sand 2 out of 3 of them, they're going to go this way, so it's kind of this is the leading edge, this is the tail edge. sanding block, and I'm just going to go around that edge a whole bunch of times. Now, if you're used to sanding balsa, which I have to say I am, this is going to take quite a bit more effort to do anything appreciable with it because it's a lot harder than balsa. Balsa is about as soft as you can get. Not sure what the original wood source for this plywood was, what kind of tree it came from, but it's not balsa. So it's going to take a lot more to end up rounding this properly, which is fine, take your time, but it's definitely going to take a lot more. So I have the beginnings of a curve right at the edges. The middle is like completely untouched. I'm going to switch over to the other side. And, again, I'm starting to make a curve, but that amount of work is not adequate because you could still see, the good indicator is this edge is dark. This has been where it was cut out with a laser, so it's burnt. The middle part of it is like all the dark color. There's hardly any of the white. The white part's the part that you sanded that hasn't been affected by the laser. That's the interior part, right? So this is going to take a while. It's going to take some time. So I think all I'm going to do is I'm going to sand it until I get one of the faces adequate and ready for production. And then that'll be the end of this video. I'll have to do all the other faces off camera, which is, again, it's time consuming, but it is something you want to do. And again, it could be worse. You could be airfoiling these. You could be laminating the wood yourself, which again is not super fun. I've certainly done it. It was some of the Estes kits, bigger kits. That's their chosen approach. I don't know why, honestly. If you're having trouble, like so, these two edges, so the root and the edge, they're getting close. The dark part is pretty thin here, but the middle seems to be untouched. So I'm gonna turn the block and I'm gonna focus on the middle here for a little bit to try to get that come along for the ride. I don't entirely know if it's the way I sand it. It might just be something that I do, that the middle doesn't seem to get as much of a sand as the edges. You would think I spend more time in the middle than I do at the edges, so it should actually get sanded more, but that is just not how it works for me for whatever reason. Well, making progress. And every once in a while, just take a look down and see if you are making the curve in it even. I'm not exactly. It needs a little more work on this side than it does on the side that I was working on. But if you keep it balanced, switching between sides with about half the time, it should work out pretty well. But if you're inconsistent for whatever reason, then take a look and try to work out which parts need more, which need less, and focus on them. Rounding it like this, I found works better for me personally. When I originally did it, I would grab a piece of sandpaper and just kind of sand up like this. I don't do that anymore because my rounding seemed to take longer and was less effective. Plus, it's pretty hard to make this hand do all the work while you're holding a piece carefully. So I didn't, that approach didn't really work for me. That's why I do what I do now. I'm getting pretty close. There isn't a whole lot of the black bits left. I'm going to switch again to going across the whole face of it again. I've got the middle close to where it ought to be. Getting there. The nice thing about, I will say about plywood here instead of balsa, aside from the fact that it's much sturdier and stronger and will survive more abuse, is it doesn't fray. So frequently when I do this with balsa, it makes like the fibers of the wood come apart, and then you have to kind of like shave it like that to get rid of those fibers. I mean, you could certainly do that this way if you really wanted to, like this, but I don't think that's really necessary here. Just about to the point where this one face should be finished. And if you're looking at the clock and how long this video ran, then you can anticipate how long it's going to take you to completely shape all these fins. It is somewhat time consuming, but it's also one of those things that you don't need your full attention on. So I've been known to shape the fins while I'm watching a baseball game or a football game or something, just kind of mindlessly sanding while watching something else happen. Seems to be a decent thing to do. Listen to an audiobook, watch a YouTube video, whatever. But yeah, this is not the world's most exciting thing you could possibly ever do, but it's probably worth it in the long run. Alright, let's look at that now. Alright, the sanded shape, there's a little bit here that needs to come off, I think. Alright. The rounded part looks pretty even, it looks symmetrical, and I don't see any obvious spots of the dark burned wood. There's just like a tiny line of it right in the middle, but I can live with that. Alright, so that's shaped. That's one. And then I have to do this. And then I have to do the other fins. And then I gotta sand these, the front and the back. And then if I'm feeling really overzealous, I'm gonna sand the tail edge. So this is gonna take a while. Worth doing, but still gonna take a while. Alright, so thanks for watching. Next video, it should all be done, and we can start building the motor mount. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in part 2.